Welcome back to Ozark Traditions TV. You're going to see part 3 tonight of our new series called Do It Yourself Deer Processing 101. Part 1 and Part 2 is already up. Check out the link if you haven't seen it and go watch them. On Part 3, I'm going to show you how to debone. We've got a rear quarter, we've got a front shoulder, we got a back strap, and we've got just some burger trimmings that we peeled off over. This is just kind of representing what there is when you get one quartered up, which will be part 2 is quartering. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to break one down, the kind of cuts you can expect to get of it, and then I'll show you what I do with it. So I'm just going to make me a little room. I'm going to start with this hind quarter. Now, Matt's going to put the disclaimer down there that I'm not a professional butcher. This is just the way I do it. It's easy for me. It'll be easy for you, and you can save yourself a lot of money. So, this was her right rear. Doesn't make any difference. You can see this white line through here. That's going to be a muscle divider right there, and you can see this big fat cap that she had on. Like I said, she was pretty healthy, so I'm probably going to start by trying to trim some of it off, because like I said, you don't want to eat it. It's not good to cook in, it's not good to render down. It will give you your pretty bad gamey taste. You just don't want it. So I'm going to pull, and then I'm going to kind of reach down here and just grab as much of this as I can, because I don't want that on there either. They're all the same. They're all like this. Just kind of sticky. She's very cold. Went back into the walk-in to kind of get her cold. It helps them to, makes them easier to slice when they're cold. So, peel off a few of these nastier things, which I don't want it in my meat. And that's why I think it's better to do these yourself, because I don't know if anybody else will pull all that junk off. Now I got me a scrap bucket down there. So here we go. Another piece I'm going to take off. Now we're back to this line like I was telling you about. So if you'll make a cut right there, you can see how this muscle group, you can tell where it goes, how that's going to come apart. Here's another good way after you do that is to get some more of this stuff off. And I'm just going to keep cutting. See, I'm going to get into meat, so I got to be careful. It's going to go across the top. So, right down in here, down inside this muscle, I've not cut them. That's just where they're going to separate. Is the bone's going to be right down there. So you can see right here and follow this around. I'm just following. You can see how it kind of divides itself. I'm going to switch to my round blade. I like it better sometimes. Try to get my arm right in your way. I'm just going to keep on with her. Boy, she's cold. She's got my fingers already cold. I'm going to keep cutting. She's right in through here somewhere. I'm just going to go ahead and take it right up through there. There's that bone we talked about last night with her hip bone and H-bone and everything. Boy, it's cold. So if you just wanted to make you a nice roast or something, right here would be a really good piece. All I did was follow the muscle contour. I would try to go back, or I will, and I'll try to trim off the bigger pieces of fat. Like I said, you can spend as much time on this as you want. You're just going to have better tasting meat without the gamey taste. So what I would probably do is I would cut this piece off. Go ahead and take this piece of fat off. I'm going to put that in my burger trim pile. It's going to get ground up. As you can see, there's some silver skin. You don't want that on there. So I'll slip my knife under, and I'm going to run it uphill. So really, I didn't waste a whole lot. And I'm going to pull up. My knife was running uphill. Hope Matt can get in there and see it. So when I'm done taking that silver skin off, I didn't waste a whole lot of meat. It goes in the scrap. So I'm just gonna try to square it up a little bit. So if you was wanting you just a nice roast, that'd be a good piece for roast right there. If you wanted to cut steaks out of it, you can do that. Just come right across this as thick as you want. And that would make some really good steaks right there. That's just all lean, good, clean meat. I'm grinding everybody up in my house. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that into pieces. So that puts us back into here. So you can tell there's another muscle group right here. It goes all the way out to here. There should be a bone right there. So what we're going to do, and you can see it right up here, I'm just going to work my way right up to that bone. You can see the bone right there. It'll come out what kind of would be her kneecap. And this, of course, will be into my burger trim pile. I'm just going to lay it right there. Little things like this kind of not bothers me, but I don't want it in my... I tell people sometimes if they want me to make them sausage, I just tell them if you wouldn't eat it raw, cut it off. So I'm just running my knife around the bone on this side, coming right on up to the top. You can feel with your finger. So we're on the back side of her. This was her hip bone and her ball and socket. Same thing with all of this stuff. I'm just going to lay all of it right here. And I'm going to try my best to get as much of this stuff off as I can. Like I said, I don't know... I don't know how long the processor guys can spend on a deer. I would say not very long, and it's not because they're not trying to do a good job. They just got so many to do. I'm going to try to get rid of this old leathery stuff where it was exposed to the air while it was in my cooler. You're always going to have some waste. You just can't help it, but I'm not going to eat this old leathery stuff here when I can take it off just as easy. So sometimes, that's why I don't skin my deer, and that's just a preference. I'm sure people was probably yelling at the TV set the other night because I had a deer hanging for 5 days and I hadn't dressed it. See, this is just another piece of meat that's not attached to this little... It probably would be the sirloin. I'm going to cut that off. I'll go through it later. So far, if it's just, like I said, if you're just learning how to do this, you're just going to have to do it. Here's the bone. So I'm still just going to try to go the best I can around it. Cut right down. This is going to come off here in a minute. It's right in here. I'm just separating the muscles. Let's just say you cut it wrong. It's, you know what, it's really not going to matter if you do. I'm kind of cutting backwards from what I want to do. So this, I think they would actually call this maybe like the little sirloin tip. It's basically made up of several little muscle groups in here. And since I'm going to grind, I'm going to cut that off. My grinder will eat that piece all day long. There's another one over here. You can just see how the muscle groups will just come apart for you. Now then, yeah, I'm going to cut off this piece of fat. And I'm going to come up here. You don't need to get this completely carried away with your trimmings. I just want the fat parts off like this. I'd never leave that in my grind. So what you got here would also make a nice roast. Or, I'm going to watch when you see this. Look how lean that steak would be. So if you're sitting there going, you are out of your mind not to fry steaks out of that. Well, I don't know. I guess you've never had my summer sausage is all I can tell you. That's just what I like to do with it. So everything I get minus the straps, I'm grinding up. So that puts us into the pile. So here's the bone, still on top of, still on the bone there. I'm just going to follow it down and around until I get to where this is going to come off here pretty quick. I'm just cutting around that H-bone. Yeah, I know it. I'm cutting to my hand, but something tells me this knife's getting pretty dull. So this piece, these are just some little pieces that lay on top of it. I'm still trying to get down into the actual, like I said, I'm needing to cut the other way, and I'm just backwards. So so inside this, once you, what I call loaf this thing out, you should have 3 loaves when you're done. I want to show you something that you've really got to get. Now then, Matt, can you come on in? You'll see that there was a big area of fat in here. Well, inside here is that gland. Now then, I'm no deer biologist, but I do know that if you want something to taste horrible, you leave that gland in that thing and grind it up, or you don't get it out, you're going to have a mess. So like I said, here's just the way this muscle group's going to unfold for me. It's just right inside the, what I would call probably like the shin area. So I'm just going to cut it completely off. Now then, I'm going to clean this mess up. You can see this right here is on top. I can pull it out. I'll trim that up. I'm getting down to some more fat. So I'm going to do the best that I can with trimming this thing up. And I'm going to go back and get it. Matt, stop me. Sharpen my knife, Matt. But all of this is coming off. So far, I'm not doing anything that's difficult for someone that they couldn't do it at home if they just took their time and studied it and followed the muscle contours. You can kind of get your way through it pretty easy. Here's just some more fat. I'm going to lop that off. I will try to get some of this. I probably can't. This is just something that's on top. You can see how muscles, you can see how they just kind of all tied together. And the reason I'm trimming this thing out is because I want to show you what would be another, if you just trimmed it up, you would have another nice deer roast. You could have your steaks in it. You can do the same thing like I did. Cut them as thick or as thin as you want. I mean, that's just about as lean as you can get with a piece of meat right there. You're not going to get anything any leaner. So if you was wanting to make, and we'll get that on episode number 4 about grinding your deer, what you need to do so it's not just, you know, dry. You're not going to make a hamburger out of that and it not taste dry to you. So, like I said, That would have been a good roast. This would still be a good roast. It's just small now, but I'm just going to keep cutting because it's going straight to the grinder with me. So I've got that. I'm going to trim this up. You're going, that's kind of silly. Well, no, I mean, she probably didn't think so when she was, alive. I'm sure she liked it, but you're not going to get it all. I can promise you that. But if you can get a lot of it, you're going to do yourself a favor. And you're thinking, we went to a lot of trouble for that. Well, I did, but I think I should. So I'm back to this would basically be her kneecap and her shin. So, it's doing the same thing. You're just going to have to start cutting. There is no right or wrong way. Now then, this will be pretty tendony. So you're not going to take this and make you a little roast out of it. You're going to have too many tendons and connective tissues in it. You're not going to like it. I'm just going to break it down like this. I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to make sure I don't have anything nasty in here like a gland or something that I've overlooked. I'm going to cut this one again. And I'm not really worried about that. That's not what I call the tough silver skin. My grinder will just eat it completely up. Now I'll get this off just because I can. So I'm still whittling it down. My hands are cold. So there's her shin bone. I don't know if that's a femur or the humerus or nothing. I don't know. The only thing that I know to do is I just stick my knife in here and I run right down the bone. And I do the same thing over here. See, that's really a tough tendon. And I cut this off. And I come around the back. And I cut that off. And I come over here. And I keep trying to just shave this off. Now then, I can get this piece. And I can get some stuff right here. And I can get this. And this. Got a hair on it, but I'll grab it. So that just kind of leaves me with a little bit of trimming around this bone. And there's some fattier junk right here that I'm probably not going to mess with because you can see all the fat. It would not be worth me trying to cut in there and get it because of the fat. So I did all of that for like these two little pieces. Well, I'm going to save them just because I went to a lot of trouble. And I'll save that piece. And these, like I said, these are what would technically be the shin. So I'm just going to try to peel them out a little bit. You don't have to. I wouldn't recommend you taking this and soaking it and trying to make your jerky out of it just because of all these tendons. This is, when you get into the lower part of the legs, especially on the front and the front shoulders, to me it all goes to grind. And I'm going to cut that piece off. The grinder will take care of the rest. Now this was like off of it. You can see, got a lot of fat. So I'm just going to cut that off, and then you can hear my dog. She knows what I'm doing, and she knows that there could be a deer leg in it for her later. So that's why she's all excited. I'm just going to keep right on. I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to try to get this off. Now then, can you grind this? Can you grind this fat up? You can. But I think you would notice a whang in your meat, and that might contribute to what would be that gamey taste. So right now I'm just taking all these pieces, cutting the fat off of them, cutting the nasty blood shot parts out of them. There's a brown piece. I'm not going to want it. I can shave a little of that off. I'm going to save that. I can save a little bit of here. And then it puts me over here. I'm getting down to the last of the giblets on a quarter, on the rear quarter panel. So these, that has a pretty stout tendon in it. I'm not going to keep it. I'm going to dump it in there. That's still a good piece. These two pieces are still good. So you got, you know, like I said, there's a kneecap. There's a little bit of meat right here. I just try to do it the best that I can and get the most that I can. You're not going to get it all. That's actually, in my opinion, slicked down pretty good. So I'll just discard that bone. So that was the rear quarter panel. So like I said, I always start with what would be the ball and socket down. Go back and look at the video. You'll see the white line that runs through it. That's just where I start. Cut it. You can separate the muscle groups and it'll loaf out pretty good on you. And it just makes it a lot easier.
From all of us at Ozark Traditions TV, we thank you for watching. And remember, if you see us out in God's country, stop us. We'd like to meet you.